Hello, AP Lang. This is an Edpuzzle lecture, meaning that I am recording myself, screencasting, and talking as I do so. So the reason I'm doing this through Edpuzzle instead of through just live on Zoom is that I want you to be able to pause and go at your own pace, and this way I can also ask you questions, and you respond to the questions within Edpuzzle. So if you have never used Edpuzzle before, the main idea is that you listen. Every so often, it'll pause and ask you a question or give you some kind of note, and it's a way to engage individually with the lecture as it happens. So today our lecture is about introducing a concept that is fundamental to rhetorical analysis, and that is the idea of a rhetorical situation. So to put this in context of our class, so far we've been focusing on the says, does, because activity, which is an activity that gets you to really pay attention to the choices made by a writer, or we're going to expand that to just someone that's making some sort of argument. So at this point, though, we've gotten, I think, the basic idea of the says, does, because, and we need to start working on getting that because to be more nuanced and more sophisticated. So the question there is, how do you take that choice that you are noticing in a text and bring it into some sort of more thoughtful analysis? What sorts of things do you need to be thinking about? What sorts of connections should you be examining? Well, I have an answer for you, and that is you should be considering the rhetorical situation. Sorry, this is a really dorky lecture. I am screencasting, which means if I mess up, I have to start all the way over. So if I make a dumb joke, I'm just rolling through it and gonna keep going. So please have some patience with me. So we should start first with a definition of a word that you are going to hear and have already heard so much, which is this word rhetoric. Rhetoric has two big meanings. The first meaning is the second meaning actually, but I feel like it's probably the one that we hear more commonly said, is the idea of rhetoric as like fluff, right? You might listen to a speech by a politician and then hear someone say like, "Oh my God, it was just all rhetoric." That's one meaning, and it's kind of a negative, pejorative kind of use. The first meaning is the one that we are talking about, which is the idea that rhetoric is the use of language, whether it's words, or you could even talk about like a visual rhetoric in a movie or a commercial or an ad. But rhetoric is the use of language to achieve a purpose. So it's the choices that go into trying to communicate a certain thing. And the person that's using the rhetoric, I want you to have this in your brain just in case it comes up in anything we read. But someone that uses rhetoric is called a rhetor, which is it's an old-fashioned word. All it means is someone that makes choices for a rhetorical purpose. And we have two of our OG dead white guys, Plato and Aristotle. Rhetoric was a huge subject that they wrote extensively about, and I like these two quotes to get us started. Plato said, "Rhetoric is the art of ruling the minds of men," and Aristotle said, "Rhetoric may be defined as observing the available means of persuasion." So rhetoric is something that is all around us at all times, which is why it drives me crazy that second definition of rhetoric as like an insult. Because even when you're talking just like casually as you eat breakfast and you're chatting with your sister, you are using rhetoric. Your purpose might be just to greet your sibling, right? But it's still you making rhetorical choices. So we are going to zoom in on this underlined word of purpose because it's really vague, right? What purpose? What do you mean by achieve a purpose? So there's a lot of different purposes behind rhetoric, and I'm just going to briefly go over a few of them. You might find that rhetorical choices are engineered to achieve the purpose of explaining or informing. So something that's giving instructions, comparing and contrasting, identifying causes and effects, giving information. So that might be one purpose that rhetorical choices are aimed towards achieving. So a instruction manual that's written in really clear language and short sentences, and it's in list format. Those are all rhetorical choices intended to achieve a purpose, and the purpose is to explain. So the reason it's so simple and easy to follow is that that is what you would want if you were first encountering something that you don't know how to do. Another purpose might be to describe. So if you read a beautiful story that doesn't seem to be making an argument, it is still achieving a purpose. That purpose is description, right? So use figurative language, sensory language, painting a picture in your mind. That's a purpose. Purpose might be to narrate, which is like to get a story across. So if you are telling a friend after school about the big baseball game, I don't know, and you're telling them about what happened, you are narrating, maybe you're making all these hyperbolic statements, you're exaggerating something, making it seem like a lot more interesting than it actually was. Your purpose is to share a story, and you're making those choices to keep your friend's attention, right? Perhaps the purpose, and this is probably what we most, like our brain immediately jumps to, the purpose of persuading. Maybe you are arguing with someone and trying to get them to agree with your position or your point of view, and so your language is designed to achieve that. So all of these things, and there's more, these are just some examples, but all of these different purposes, in this class, we're going to refer to them as arguments. Even if something like, even if something like describing doesn't seem like an argument in the sense that you understand that concept or the way that that concept is used, like the way that the word argument is used in our everyday lives. In an academic composition course, the word argument, all it means is a purpose, a designed purpose. So, how do people achieve whatever their purpose is? How do writers achieve their purpose? To answer that, we're going to look at the rhetorical situation. So here is a little acronym, SOAPs, to help us remember each of the pieces. The rhetorical situation at its most basic is everything that influences and surrounds a text. So that would involve the speaker, so whoever it is that is delivering the message or the argument, the occasion, the audience, the purpose, the subject. And to show you what each of these means, I'm going to use perhaps one of the most famous speeches of all time, I Have a Dream, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. Also, we have Monday off. It is Martin Luther King Day, the 18th. So that just reminded me seeing this picture. So this is very timely. And our elements of the rhetorical situation, the S, speaker. This is the voice, the viewpoint, the values, the tone brought to the text by this author or speaker. So in the case of the MLK speech, he's an iconic leader of the civil rights movement. He's a minister, civil rights activist, a very openly religious man, specifically Baptist Christian. That's stuff that we know about him. You might find with the speaker, especially if you are reading something satirical or that's a little more indirect, that they construct some kind of persona. So, for example, if you are familiar with Key and Peele, the comedians, or I don't know, Daniel Tosh, like any kind of comedian that does something vaguely satirical, they put on a persona, right? They're talking as if they think something. They're presenting themselves in a certain way. That's still speaker. So it's just whoever is delivering the argument is the speaker. And it might involve all true autobiographical information that they are providing about themselves, or it might be kind of this persona that they are putting on. O is occasion. So this is everything surrounding the text. So this might be the historical context. For MLK, it's the height of the civil rights movement. It might be literally the physical location for a speech or something. This is the Lincoln Memorial Steps. It might be something like a date, like the 100-year anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation. This word occasion, it's the circumstances which prompted the writing and sharing of the text. So if someone wrote a letter to the editor, they're writing with, usually that would be in response to a story or something. And this word occasion is used interchangeably with a word that you might see on the AP test, exigence. I will put a little note right now showing you how that's spelled, but the word exigence just means the same as occasion. It's the situation that prompted the text. Audience, we know this word, I mean, we know most of these words, but it's just that they're being used a little differently. Audience is the intended reader or viewer of the text. So it's who the text was designed for. So who are they trying to reach or persuade? And it might be an audience that's already pretty sympathetic. Like with MLK, it's people that came to watch him speak. So likely they were sympathetic to what he was saying, right? They're already in support of the civil rights movement. With a text that's more combative or more designed to persuade someone that's not already persuaded, that's still their audience, right? They might have an audience that disagrees with them, and their choices are going to be crafted to persuade an unsympathetic audience. And so with the MLK speech, I would say broadly that Americans of all races who have an interest in a unified nation was his intended audience here. I might even take this a little further than it says on the slide and clarify that he's also, in many parts of the speech, appealing specifically to religious Americans, and even more specifically, how many times can I say specifically? I'm getting nervous now. More narrowly to Baptist Christians. So it's a very, oh my God, I just want to say specific over and over again. I'm going to move on. The P in SOAPs is purpose. What is the goal of the text? Here is where you think about that list that I talked about earlier. Is it trying to describe? Is it trying to tell a story? Is it trying to convince? What is the text designed to do? And it might be multiple things. If you look at this example, you'll notice there's different purposes. Convince Americans to support the fight for racial equality, strengthen the resolve of Americans already involved in that fight, provide comfort and hope. There's tons of different possible purposes. You're not just bound to the list that we went over, and you might find that there's multiple intertwined purposes. And the last one of the SOAPs acronym is very straightforward: subject. What are the topics addressed in the text? There's likely going to be multiple topics for any text. Texts are usually mentioning a variety of things. For this, I would say that he is focusing on segregation, equal rights, racism, justice, tons and tons of topics being addressed in the text. And if you prefer a visual, think of a triangle. You will find in rhetorical analysis there are many different triangles that we discuss. This is the first one, which is the rhetorical situation triangle. It shows everything is connected, and this whole thing encompasses the text and its choices. So when you are looking at a specific choice made by a writer, consider, could it be related to the speaker and their background or a persona they're trying to construct? Could it be related to occasion? Could it be them responding to something that happened? Could it be shaped by something that is going on? Purpose, what are they trying to get done with this argument? And how are these choices related to that purpose? Subject, there's certain subjects that are going to affect the way we talk about them. Could that be happening? And audience, who specifically is this choice intended to reach? So the idea with the rhetorical situation is that it is something to think about in conjunction with rhetorical choices. So if you were looking at an essay where someone repeats a sentence over and over and over again, what aspect of the rhetorical situation could that be connected to? So this is a way to extend your analysis. At this point, I'm talking about the because part of the says, does, because. And it all goes back to what choices are being made and how do they relate to the situation. Okay, I did it. I'm done. Specific, one more time.